coming up after the break.
Bill Elliott is racing into the record books. Bill Elliott is going toward immortality. Bill Elliott gets the checkered flag. Bill Elliott has won an additional $1 million in 1985.
Hey, car lovers! At Advance Auto Parts, we have what you need to keep your car running all season long. So if you enjoy getting ahead of the curve when it comes to taking care of your ride, Advance Auto Parts has everything to keep your ride on track to reach the victory lap. Because you can trust the team at Advance Auto Parts to assist you in finding what you need at the right price. Stop by Advance Auto Parts, where you're always number one.
This is how we advance.
So you're back behind the keyboard, you're collecting Social Security, you're on Medicare, you're a Hall of Famer. So Bill Elliott, what's it like to get behind the wheel again?
Well, you know, you got a couple of them right. I am on Medicare, but I'm not on Social Security yet, but I'm working on it. But, oh, it's great. I enjoy it. I've had a good time fooling around what I've done the last few years. I've done a little bit of vintage road racing, not much, and just kind of picked and choosed and done a few things. I did this series last year, which was kind of the first handful of races was kind of a disaster, but finally got my act together and ran good at Nashville and had a good time with Chase. And yeah, it was fun. It was a good run, good trip. Looking forward to tonight. And you know, I came up here last year and the car had a fuel pickup issue, and I ended up falling out of the race, and that was kind of a bummer. So the guys that ran here last year have a little bit of edge on me.
I want to go back to Nashville because I think any father that has a son, whether they're race car drivers, but when the son follows in the father's footsteps and you get a chance to work shoulder to shoulder, father and son, and that's exactly what happened with you. First at Road America 1 year ago, but then at Nashville. Can you describe to people just what that made Bill Elliott feel like?
Oh, it's really cool. I mean, to see a kid grow up and him become the race car driver, or kind of follow his dream and become you know, win races and do things and being successful in his own right, but then to be able to race with him and help understand where things have evolved to. And that's because like I went to Pensacola with the SRX 2 weeks ago, and I really enjoyed racing Pensacola because I'd been down there with Chase for a number of trips the past number of years, and he's run well. He's won a couple of snowball derbies. He's won a lot of races down there, and now I could better understand what he was trying to tell us as how he was going through his career. So it just helps you when you talk about things, you do things, and I've even picked up things from him, you know, by the way he's learned how to drive a race car and changed from my era of driving a race car. Where do you think, Bill, he's a better race car driver than you? Just experience. I mean, when I came into Cup in the mid 70s, I hadn't raced, you know, several handfuls of races at that time. You know, so for me, the 70s was the learning curve that set me up for the 80s, but I still lacked a lot of racing experience even in the 80s that you kind of learned. It was kind of learn as you go. There wasn't a handbook, there wasn't somebody tapping you on the shoulder saying, hey, you're doing this wrong or that wrong or whatever. You just had to figure it out. And you know, like Harry Hyde always said, you know, you learn it the hard way, you won't forget it. And that's kind of the way I was. But as the evolution of things changed, you know, and I've been fortunate enough to drive several of the different Cup cars throughout the years and understand that evolution. I haven't driven one of the new cars of this year, but maybe one time I'll get the opportunity to do that, and just to see how it looks toward everything else that I've driven to this point, because I was in the cars back when they were true stock cars, and they put a chassis, they just beefed up what was there and made it go. And then we evolved into building tubular cars and putting bodies on them, and now you've evolved into a full-fledged race car, you know, over since probably the late 80s, early 90s to what it's evolved to today. So it's all changed.
I had Clint Boyer on earlier this year on Wind Tunnel, and we got into a very spirited conversation, quite honestly, about this next-gen car. And Clint and I kind of came to the agreement that you can't create a design where one size fits all, and with the variations from road courses to the Bristol Dirt to short tracks, etc., maybe you can approximate it, but it isn't all that we were sold in on. And he brought up the point, and I'd be interested in your take. What he thinks is going to be critical is what NASCAR decides to do as this concept evolves. Or are they going to fall back to the default position they always seem to have in our day of this is our sandbox. If you want to play in it, you play according to our rules. I think that's the unanswered question right now.
Well, I think one thing, it depends on who gets in the rear.
Yeah.
And influences the decision of which way they go, whether it's the fans, whether it's other race teams, whether it's whomever. That's going to be the first direction of where NASCAR will go. The second thing is, I think, in my opinion, you've got such a small latitude of what you can do to the car, and I keep contending, if I'm a driver and I want it and I like a certain aero balance, either I got to learn how to drive it, and I don't have the latitude to change it, to where I feel like there needs to be a little more latitude in the amount of adjustments you get with this particular car. That's one thing that I think would be better, but there again, it's a very complicated car. It's way more complicated than the old car that we drove, and I don't even think I could even set one up, because it's independent rear. There's a lot of things going on. To me, there's certain things a little more durable, certain things a lot less durable about the car. So it's just going to have to evolve. I mean, life's about evolution, and I don't like the way a lot of things go, but I can't change it. And but you can go into grandstands and ask 100 people, you can have 100 different opinions of what they think.
And look, I think the bottom line is, and you just touched upon it, in order for us to continue to thrive into the next 25 years of the 21st century, there has to be a lot more attention paid to what the paying spectator is looking for. With all due respect, drivers are going to be drivers. Car owners are going to be car owners. So we're going to have all that stuff is going to remain constant. Maybe their agenda's different. But without the race fans, you wouldn't have had the career that you've got, nor would Chase have the career that he's having, or some Haley Deegan, let's say, is about to have in her generation. And you keep looking for who's going to get the ear and listen to what they're, whether it's good or bad, you need to listen to those people.
Well, the main thing, I think, you don't need to alienate the grassroots fans that you had from the beginning. And I think that's what's happened to some extent. But on the flip side is you've got to grow your fan base as well and continue that evolution on. But yes, it's all about the fans. They're going to if they're going to pay money, they want to see a good race, and their definition of a good race is what? And to each person that definition is different. And that's what I said earlier. I mean, you go through this sport, and I think one thing that if I would have built this next gen car, I would have focused more on, if I was going to go this drastic of a change in car, I would have said, okay, we're going to limit you how much fuel you can use, to where the teams come up with a creative, better mileage, how you want to do it, whether they keep power or take power out, get fuel mileage or whatever you do, because that's kind of where our world is coming to as time goes on. But I mean, that's kind of me and what I see. If you look and listen, and you just look at what's going on in society around you, and that's one part of what you got to understand and look at.
Until Chase came along, you were the most popular driver year in, year out, over and over and over again. So there's no question that you're connected to the fans. So what is the overwhelming feeling that they express to you when they encounter you, whether it's at the Dawsonville pool room or at the local Home Depot, wherever you run into somebody? What is it that they feed back to you about the sport we both love?
Well, I mean, I have mixed. Yeah, I try to ask the fans what they think of it today, and you get a lot of mixed reviews. You know, a lot of fans just either they were avid, turn it on. If hell freezes over, we're still going to turn it on every week. To where, you know, the majority of them is become more of a casual fan, and that's kind of a sad part of kind of where we're going. But there again, not taking anything away from NASCAR, but you look at our whole society. Period. I mean, we're a society of wanting everything right now. You know, we've got our cell phones, we've got all this information feeding to us 24/7. You know, so you've got, you know, I want it right now. That's what I want. You know, so you want the answers before you ask the questions, and that's what we're turning into that society. But yet the fans that I run into have looked at like everything in general and looks at it and says, well, it's just become too much commercialized. You know, it's all about, you know, selling this or selling that, which it was in the early days, but it just seems like
totally different,
Yeah.
because now that's become a cost, something that they cost analysis. They look at it. You had a merchandise trailer. Okay, you were excited if all of a sudden you came home and you sold out of your T-shirts. Now we're talking about a series of collectible die casts. We're talking about, you know, so many different things that it's become a profit center for these race teams and for drivers.
Right. Well, I mean, but that's just a part of it. I mean, fans want memorabilia of anything, football, baseball, basketball, racing, whatever it may be. But to me, but everybody sees that as they've gotten involved for a lot of the wrong reasons as it's gone on. And usually the guy that gets hurt the worst at the end is the race fans, you know. But you know, I try to take care of the race fans the best I can and do what I can, and I can try to continue to do that. Even I've not been, you know, full-time behind the wheel for 21 years now, but like I said, I still I enjoy doing these things. I enjoy seeing the fans, and I just enjoy certain parts of it.